Before we get into this episode, there's something that might be of interest that I wanted to tell you about. Scene and Heard, who run this podcast, have been asked by Scotland Food and Drink to undertake a strategic review of the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards. Now, these Excellence Awards have been going for almost 20 years and are a huge mainstay of the food and drink sector. But it's time to ensure that they're still relevant. So if you have ever been involved in the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards, or even if you've ever had an opinion about them, we would love for you, please, to complete our survey. So if you go to the On Farm Twitter, which is at @on_farm UK, and click the link in the bio, there will be a tab in there that will take you to the survey, and it should only take you a very short while to complete, but we would be enormously grateful. Hello and welcome to On Farm. This is Anna back with you today, and of course everyone loves to be told that they're doing a good job, and the Helping It Happen Awards, which are run by Scottish Land and Estates, are kind of doing exactly that. It's recognising and rewarding people, organisations, communities who are doing great things within rural Scotland. The awards are open now for entries for 2023, but for this episode we're going back and chatting to some of the winners from the 2022 awards. There were 9 winners in total, and we're hoping to do 3 episodes, each with 3 winners in them. So this is the first one. You can sit back and relax, but before you listen to that, we just have a short word about the awards more widely from the Scottish Land and Estates CEO Sarah Jane Lang.
Scottish Land and Estates Helping It Happen Awards have been running for 7 years, and the campaign has been running for a little bit longer than that. And they still provide such an excellent opportunity for businesses and projects, organisations and individuals to highlight the really vital contribution that they're making to the life of rural Scotland. I know people have thankfully got past that, I suppose, rural Scotland humility of just, keeping your head below the parapet and not shouting about your successes. And I'm delighted that Helping It Happen is able to provide a vehicle for people to do that. And it's not just about the awards, it is about raising awareness of the contribution that rural businesses make to the environment, to communities, creating employment, creating opportunities for others. So it's a really excellent opportunity to celebrate, but also just to raise awareness of the realities of what's happening in rural Scotland. So for 2023, we have made a couple of changes. I think it's important that Helping It Happen continues to remain relevant. And we've got 2 new additions to our categories. And the first is the award for Outstanding Contribution to Rural Scotland. And that aims to celebrate those who have spent their lives working in or for Scotland's countryside and the rural communities. And the Rural Rising Star Award. I'm sure we can all think of those people who really embody, the values and the attributes that turn them into stars of rural Scotland. And we've also made a slight change to our Rural Housing Award. That's now been expanded to rural property. So that'll include not only those who are involved in providing much needed rural housing, but also look at outstanding design and architecture across all property types in rural Scotland. So the nominations are now open. People can enter online at the Scottish Land and Estates website. You can nominate yourselves, you can nominate other people, and I'm delighted to say that nominations are flooding in from across Scotland. As I said, don't be shy. It is an excellent opportunity for rural businesses to kind of wave the flag and celebrate the fantastic job that they're doing.
We'll hear more from Sarah Jane at the end of the episode, but let's now get into our chat with the award winners.
Hugh, Campbell, Adamson, Chairman of Strathcathro Estates in North Angus. The company is primarily agricultural, mostly renewables, with housing and other property.
I'm Kirsty Ritchie, co-founder of a company called Mind and Mission. We are at the moment undertaking a project with the Scottish Government for women in agriculture called Be Your Best Self. The company that I run is Its purpose is essentially to improve mental fitness, and that's been a contribution to the Be Your Best Self programme.
I'm Ian Robertson. I am the Chief Executive of Countryside Learning Scotland. We deliver education packages within the rural sector across all rural industries, from rec adventure to traditional land use and environment conservation. We do that through a programme called Pathways to Rural Work, which is designed to try and combat some of the major issues we're having in the rural environment just now with recruitment of good young people.
Well, thank you all very much. You're each involved in projects which won an award, so congratulations on that to start with. Kirsty, the Be Your Best Self programme which you highlighted was the winner of the Education Award. Strathcathro Estates won the Housing Award, and Ian and Countryside Learning Scotland won the Working with Communities Award. It's easy to see when you group those three awards together how they are able to have a wider impact on, not just very small local communities, but on our understanding and hopefully the development of things that are really critical to rural business. I might start with you again, Hugh, if that's all right. Can you tell us a little bit about the project which won the award and how it interacts with the local area and the benefits that it set out to deliver?
Yes, certainly. Can I go back a little bit? The reason why we built the houses, and I can explain, was because we had an argument with Angus Council Education, who said there was no need for a local primary school, and they wanted to close it. It clearly, we felt, was not fair. They hadn't done their research. They hadn't come to speak to us or other people who owned houses to see how many young families are coming through. So when they did save the school, we managed to get them, persuade them that they were wrong with their numbers. I then realised actually one of the problems we do have is that the occupancy of the many houses there are, and it's not an unpopulated area in North Angus. Inchfair itself has 25 houses, and in the immediate area there's another 150 within the so-called catchment area. What's happening is that people, when they're getting older, as all over Scotland, tend to stay in their house after children have left. So the number of children has definitely dropped, even if the number of houses hasn't. So we ended up building 6 houses, hugely helped by Scottish Government, and there's now 10 children in those 6 houses, of which the majority now go to local school. So that's where the whole story started from. And of course, it's a very good news story. I'm very pleased with it. One, not only just for the pleasure of having done it, but more, it's created a much closer relationship with the Angus Council, especially the social side, and in a way with the government as well, because it was their funding that made it possible. As for the award itself, yes, everyone loves to be recognised. But what did happen with that is actually, in practical terms, that we talked about the Strathcathro project at the spring conference. And I had probably 10, 12 people getting in touch wanting to hear more about it. Now, whether they have been, that interest has been transferred into construction, I don't know. I think there's been a real lack of progress simply because the present rent freeze has made it probably uneconomic. But that's probably getting to political matters more than the good story. The good story of having won the award and the publicity for that, for the SLE, and perhaps for landowners as well, or land managers, is it's a good news story and we need more houses in the countryside. It's a win-win.
It sounds as though it's been a great community project, and as you say, it's been integral to saving longer term the local primary school, which is fantastic. Kirsty, perhaps it's just the age I'm at the moment, but when I think of primary schools, I think of obviously of my own kids, and then I start to think of women in work, or perhaps women who are not in work, and the fact that within rural Scotland, women are quite obviously represent 50% of the population, but they don't necessarily represent 50% of the workforce. They perhaps don't have the confidence to be in work. Perhaps they've left work to have children. And it was those women that the Scottish Government set out to try to help by the creation of the Be Your Best Self programme. So I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit more about that programme and some of the impact that you've seen, because it's been running now for quite some time. You're nearly on cohort 9 of 10.
You're right. We are coming to the end, and it's incredible that this has been a 2-year programme and we're nearly at the end of it. It's been quite a humbling experience personally for me. I was just starting out with my business partner, creating Mind and Mission and working out what we were going to do. And this opportunity came along, and I'll be really honest, we were probably quite naive about the whole women in agriculture context until we read the report. And we all felt incredibly strongly about the topic itself, being women in work, having worked in industries that are also male dominated, having experienced some of that there as well. And what I found throughout the programme is, interestingly, it hasn't really been about agriculture, which some might think, well, what is she doing? What is she doing on the On Farm podcast? It's not about agriculture. Interestingly, it is, because every single woman on the programme has been involved in farming, agriculture, or rural working or living in some form. But the programme itself is about personal development. It's about bringing women together to inspire, to, yes, get some education, to learn tools, techniques, to learn about themselves, to be able to go back out into their respective communities, whether that is farming or agriculture, or even some corporate organisations as well in the agricultural industry, and to be able to take that back. And the feedback as we've gone throughout has been improving sort of every cohort that we do. So we've learned from every experience. And now we're nearly at the end, having won the award last year. I think it actually helped us to get more people on board, to really have that sort of external validation that, yeah, what we're doing is actually really important on so many different layers and so many different levels. So it was quite a humbling experience to get that, and it really defined that we're doing a good job. To have someone completely external say, yeah, this is a good thing that you're doing, it really does give you that extra boost and that extra bit of motivation to do more.
I think that's it. And Hugh alluded to this as well. You know, nobody's going on a hunt for awards, but the very fact that you get one also helps to reinforce what you already knew, that the course was delivering concrete benefit, but it adds that credibility. And it's just always nice to know that other people recognise some of the hard work and achievements as well, I think. Ian, could you also tell us a bit more about your project? And again, how what your thoughts are in terms of that kind of award recognition type piece as well?
Yeah, absolutely. The programme we run is called ADHD Rural Connect, which is effectively does what it says in the tin, which is about getting young people with ADHD recognised as being potentially a good thing for any workforce in the rural sector, with some of the traits of ADHD people and how they stick to tasks and so on. And that was the brainchild initially of Hugh Maynell, who's a farmer in Stewart. And he came to CLS recognising the Pathways to Rural Work programme that we run, and asked if we could help them put something together with regards to giving that particular demographic the chance to get into rural careers. So we sat down and planned it out, spoke about it. We targeted one school in Perth, and Perth Grammar School. We pulled on board the major partner, who is Perth and Kinross ADHD, and they were going to be the specialists in that field, whereas we could sit and build the foundations for the programme and run the programme within Pathways to Rural Work. So that seemed like a nice partnership. The programme is, unlike Kirsty's programme, is very much in the early stages. We're in a pilot phase at the moment. We have support from NFU Mutual, which was very gracefully received. We've fundraised another number of funds to bring us up to a point where we hopefully can employ somebody within this year. So it's early stages. We've run a programme for about 15 young people in Perth Grammar. What's really opened my eyes is the number of young people who are diagnosed with ADHD and the number of young people who are not diagnosed with ADHD, who are just on the cusp and still require some support and are not particularly academic, or are academic but are not recognised as such because they struggle to sit behind a desk all day, like many of us have to say. So the recognition part, the Helping It Happen Award, is the first award that CLS has received, and it really has. We've worked hard over the last few years to, as a young organisation, to get ourselves on the rural map and to be recognised as an organisation who can deliver for the problems of the rural sector. Also for the young people in the country, to make them more aware of what is available to them. And that is a huge issue we've found within schools, that teachers just don't have the experience or knowledge of the rural issues and still see, rural jobs as being effectively shoveling dung and manual labour and nothing else. And they don't recognise the broad diversity of careers that are available. So our teacher training programme helps that along the way. So really, from a recognition perspective, it's really helped. As it's also probably stimulated another award through the Lantra Awards, a partnership award we got for the programme as well. So the programme's just started and it's got 2 awards, which is fantastic. That really helps with fundraising. Funders then recognise that your own community supports and recognises the work you do, and that goes a long way to helping with funding applications and so on. And also from a staff point of view, we have limited resources ourselves. We have our coordinator in Tayside works 3 days a week on the Pathways to Reward programme, and we've asked her to do a little bit in the interim to run the ADHD programme. So she's putting a lot of extra hours in, deserves a huge amount of credit, and just getting that award really motivates them to continue pushing the boundaries in what is a very vocational job. There's not often a lot of thanks, so it certainly allows me to go back to the staff and say, well done, this is recognising you. So it's been really helpful from that point of view.
I think that's human nature, isn't it? Kirsty, you will have discovered this amongst the participants, I imagine, of the Be Your Best Self programme, many of whom are working hard, perhaps bringing up kids, working on the farm, also have a full-time job in some cases, and probably they are struggling sometimes in terms of lack of recognition in their daily lives. And I think the fact that all of you have a team of people who are trying to do what are actually pretty amazing things, and just for those people to know that what they've done is making a difference and has been recognised for it, I think is enormously important.
Absolutely. The programme in itself is for women to come out of the sort of 5 or 6 weeks really feeling that they're worthy. And I think recognition that the education piece that we put together is, up there and doing something quite profound is great. And to be honest, we have mentioned the award to all the cohorts because the programme would be nothing without the participants. We would not have won the award without the participants because it's their inspirational stories, it's the diversity, it's the ingenuity. We've been blown away by each and every cohort that's gone through the programme at the depth around the country. It is just incredible what some of these women are doing. And we've dedicated that award to every single woman that has gone through the programme.
Couldn't have put it better myself, Kirsty. It's just succinct and perfect. Hugh, it struck me, Kirsty's programme has the potential to help 50% of people in rural Scotland because 50% of people are women. Ian, I read the other day that 15% of the population have ADHD. So the scope for you across the next months, years, decades even, to help so many people is vast.
One of the topics that we've been discussing in the steering group with ADHD, Perth and Kinross, is the cost to the country at the moment between young people who end up going to prison, going down the wrong route and so on, because young people are not really catered for with ADHD at the moment, is far greater than it would be to run a programme to get young people actually going down the correct line and saving a lot of money longer term. And I think that's a key point with the programme, never mind the rural side, which is also can benefit hugely from these people. But that has been a key sort of priority for us, is to say to funders that the current cost of dealing with the outcomes of poor education for ADHD young people is massive. And that can be reduced hugely with getting these young people onto the right track at an early stage.
Of course, and that's above and beyond the help that's actually being given to the individual. It's not just the individual that's benefiting, it's the entire economy. Hugh, coming to you, I know we spoke on the phone actually in advance of this podcast, and I know that there are challenges, that the rural rent freeze is a particular challenge for you, and I may come back to you for a whole nother podcast episode about that actually, because I think it's something that needs to be talked about. Kind of that aside, I guess, You said you've had interest from people who have seen your project, seen what it's delivered for the local community, and are interested in trying to maybe replicate that. But what are your thoughts in terms of the housing crisis that we face at the moment, and the various solutions that are out there, and how rural businesses such as yours can be part of the solution?
Inadequate housing is what I learned from our project. We had 300 odd people applied for them, and we could have filled those houses 10 times, 20 times over. Where it was so sad was a lot of people applying had lost the will to live or will to develop. You could see they wanted to do it. They couldn't because the present housing was inadequate. And half of that problem of that is localized management of housing. And I'm not going to try to be critical of council housing. I think, unfortunately, due to the lack of money around, too many people are living in substandard houses. And it must be very, very difficult. It's been a real eye-opener for me. On a very positive side, though, that injection of those extra people into the village and help through CLLD and money from the old LAG system, we're now going to have probably set up a SKIO for Strathcathro and put the buildings like the village hall and sadly the now closed church into community ownership and try to get a proper community life going. Because without housing, you can't have people. Unless you motivate people to feel part of it, you don't have a community. And a community was what always created Scotland in the past. I have great belief, but we have to start off with decent housing.
Do you think it's feasible for others to replicate what you've done and for them to see communities like yours come back to a point where they're thriving and engaged and really benefiting the area, not just from a social point of view, but hopefully also from an economic point of view?
Bluntly, if we continue with having uncertainty about rents going up, they can go up by inflation, that's fine. If there's a real need to stop bad landlords putting the rents up too high, we should have that. But the other side is you'll never get anyone to borrow money in order to build houses if the return from those houses is less than it's costing to borrow.
Cost them to build. Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. It's basic economics.
Basic economics, yeah. This is not necessarily what we're here to talk about, but actually what you have highlighted is the way in which SLE is making that contribution to not just this issue, but the issue that Ian highlights as well. By way of its capacity to influence, and I suppose that's another part of what SLE does. We're obviously talking about the Helping It Happen Awards, which are as we've talked about already, the real opportunity to congratulate and recognise and motivate people. And I suppose that's where SLE's role is twofold, because Ian, you've talked about the challenges of in terms of education and how best to direct that funding, and it's obviously not being directed in a wholly constructive way at the moment, and that's why there's such a need for your project.
I think the structure of education is traditionally very difficult and probably hasn't evolved the way it should have. The classic example of that is part of the programme we run is about giving children of the sort of early secondary school years the opportunity to try as many different rural careers as possible, whether that's kayak instructor, whether it's gamekeeper, whether it's environmental specialist. The reason we're trying to do that is because we want to give these kids a better chance to have a chance of making a choice of what their career may be by giving them a chance to engage with something at the early years of secondary school. At the moment, they're asked to choose their subjects in end of secondary 2 in most cases. What chance have they got of knowing what they want to do with their life experiences up to that point? It's a ridiculous system. So I think from an education perspective, we can't do anything about that as a small organisation, but we can try and provide them with more experiences, if possible, through their early secondary schools to give them a better chance to make a better decision. So you're actually pushing young people, within 2 or 3 years into a further education opportunity in a rural career or straight into a job. And this goes for the kids with ADHD too. There's an extra element to that because we want to improve their self-esteem, their self-worth, their self-awareness, make them more employable, along with giving them the experiences of rural and trying to use these rural experiences to provide that. Animals are a classic example. Most young people with ADHD just have a rapport and a trust with animals that they don't have with other human beings. So giving these sort of awareness opportunities in the early stages of secondary, and then taking those who do engage with something and moving them into the second phase of the project, which is work experience. That's where we need the businesses, and that's where we partner with SLE to get access through them to some of their businesses who could help with placing these young people to get them a chance and a start. And then the third phase of the programme is to take that group and move them into further education and work and help them with that transition phase. So it's a very progressive programme, Pathways to Rural Work and ADHD Rural Connect, which is part of that.
Can I say on that, we had 80 children here yesterday from Mayor's Academy in Lawrencekirk, Brecon, Montrose and Arbroath in a RET scheme.
I'm a trustee of RET, so I am delighted to hear that news, Hugh.
No, excellent, and it was great. They had their modules to go around. The reason why we did that is because there is such a lack. We cannot get staff now. It is quite interesting. Some of the children were suddenly realised there's much more to it than your good description in before of shoveling. I think you said done. It's basically, it's much bigger and big machinery, of course. So every boy and girl seems to enjoy looking at and being photographed in front of.
Yes.
Again, this education in the countryside is vital.
And I think actually, that's what we've talked about, recognition and self-worth and motivation. And I think they're all critical for teams and for people involved in various projects. But, I, by the nature of my job, I spend my life wearing a PR hat. And that's the other benefit that I see is that, yes, you've got these fantastic organisations that we've touched on. Obviously, RET is a particular favourite of mine, but they're all doing amazing things in terms of PR to help educate people, give them a greater understanding of what goes on in the countryside careers. There's no end to that journey, and therefore every single project recognised in any awards, SLE awards, Helping It Happen awards, obviously, but in any awards, any project that gets recognition is helping on that promotional journey, if you ask me. I will admit I know very little about rural housing, but when I read your application to Helping It Happen awards, I learnt a huge amount. Likewise, I've learnt a huge amount about ADHD from learning about Ian's project and from a couple of other things. All of these things are helping to develop that understanding and that education. And whilst the benefits of that are difficult to measure and it's not always tangible, I think we all have to take pleasure in the fact that the benefits are there. More and more, by every single project that we do, more and more people are learning something. People have learnt about the importance of how you go about helping to make rural schools more viable through your project. People are understanding more about what careers are best suited to those with ADHD, with the women in agriculture topic as well. And I think that, for me, I take heart from that it's sometimes the benefits are not tangible, but they're there. And that's why SLE keeps going with the awards. And that's why businesses keep entering and businesses keep doing what they're doing. So we've got mountains to climb, Hugh, but I think I see so much positivity in all of this as well.
Giving someone an award, obviously, is a pleasure to receive it. But from our case, it's spread the word that this grants are available from the government. It has maybe improved our standing a bit in the area. It's given me incentive. Yes, certainly, we would do more of these houses because it's something that's right to do. But getting an award, yes, it's great. And it spreads the word or incentivise staff, which is, I hadn't really thought of that side. That came through earlier. I think that's vital. So, all power to people to apply. And when I will say, if you apply and don't get it, keep trying again.
Oh, absolutely. And, people might not win, but there are always at least 3 businesses shortlisted and they get, a certain amount of recognition and I would hope satisfaction from that as well. So absolutely enter. And I think what you said there, Hugh, kind of sums it up. Many of the projects involved in the whole of the Helping It Happen awards do what they do because it's just the right thing to do. And I think, yes, obviously, there are issues of community and finance and all sorts of things that you've got to throw into that mix too. But these projects are all the right thing to do. And I think that's why I feel so enthusiastic about them. Ian, before we close, have you got anything you'd like to add on that note?
Yeah, our USP as an organisation, really, and we've tried to place ourselves in the rural market where nobody else does, and that's working across everything. When you look out your window, anything that's educational and outdoors, as I say, we've tried to group that into rec adventure, traditional land and sea use, and environment conservation, just to make it simple for the urbanised people to see, where things sit. Now, obviously, a lot of careers can sit in all three of these, but I think what's really important for all people involved in rural is that, yes, we need to continue to promote and preach to the people already involved and the converted, but we have I believe we're really bad at promoting out with the rural sector. And when you consider the government numbers, I think 98% of Scotland's landmass is classed as rural. 17% of the population live in that 98%. Now, you can argue that 17% living rurally, there's probably only 4 or 5% that are what you would class as true rural people. So we're a tiny, tiny minority of the population, but providing, punching way above our weight with what we provide for the communities and the people of Scotland, whether that be, work, economy, health and well-being, and all the other tags that go with it. So I think if I have any one request, it's let's get to, we work, particularly the rec adventure side, which traditionally has been a real clash between traditional land use and rec adventure. Now more and more estates are recognising the benefits of getting involved with that and actually managing it and controlling it, and the conflicts are starting to reduce. That's helping with understanding of how the countryside really works, not necessarily what the national media tell us. So I think getting these clear messages across to our urbanised population, that should be our market, not necessarily. And we still need to talk to our own people, of course we do, and that will always happen naturally. But we need to get the message out to whether they engage or not, just understanding and knowing is key. And I think we all have a duty within all our roles in rural to do that and get that message through of the reality of everything from food production to recreation opportunity and responsible access and so on. Yeah, helping it happen, absolutely brilliant. It's done us a lot of good, but if we can get that message wider, I think that's key.
I totally agree. Well, I just want to thank you both. Kirsty had to dash off to see a client, but I'd like to thank you both very much for taking part today. Huge thanks there to Hugh, Kirsty and to Ian, and congratulations again to all of them for their win in the Helping It Happen Awards last year. We've heard quite a bit from them about the benefits of entering and winning the awards, how they've boosted morale, supported them in getting word out about what they do, and all sorts of other positive things. Hopefully that's a bit of encouragement to consider putting your own project or your work or somebody you know forward for the future awards and for 2023. If you need one final push or encouragement though, here's another word, the last for this episode, from SLE's Sarah Jane Lang.
It really is so rewarding to hear the positive stories from past winners. It's not just a kind of a one-night award ceremony. The lasting legacy of involvement in the Helping It Happen project is clear and measurable and tangible for many of those past winners. And I hope it's something that, those who are considering applying will be thinking about. It's not just about that, flashy award ceremony. It is about that kind of longer term benefit for everyone. We are, so grateful to our returning headline sponsor, Nature Scott, and all the sponsors of the individual categories. These awards just wouldn't be possible without them, and it allows us to continue to be able to kind of focus on all the different aspects of helping it happen: conservation, education, environment, combating climate change, building resilient businesses, innovation in farming, work in communities, tourism and visitor management. There's something there, I think, for everyone.
Thank you again to Sarah Jane. The On Farm podcast is made by our team here at Scene&HerdPR and Marketing. So get in touch for a chat if you've got any questions or queries around communications, marketing, social media or PR for your rural land or food-based business. But that's me off for now, and we'll be back again next week. See you then.